Hey friends, we're back. I just finished spraying the windscreen and windshield support. Just used the the gloss aluminum TS17 on that. Too much chrome. I don't like the the toy chrome so much that I want it all over the car. So for the windscreen, we use the gloss aluminum. You can see I wrap most of the car in plastic sheeting, the saran wrap or equivalent. And sorry, the whole desktop here is a mess. But it just, you don't want to be laying tape all over the car if you can avoid it. So we have the hunter green layer down, and then over that, obviously I wanted to do the windscreen, and so we're just going to pull this away here carefully. The Tamiya paints dry pretty quickly, but you still want to be careful, putting tape on and taking tape off and all that stuff. You just don't want any sudden surprises, right? Okay, so that said, you know how I like to get the tape off quickly to avoid that residue problem. Let me see if I can get this back under camera here. I have a bad habit of leaning backward while I'm doing this, and the camera can't see that, so I'm going to try and lean forward just a little bit here. Catch as much of this as I can. So it's awkward, you've got tape everywhere. It's sticking to itself, and it's sticking to the car, and now I've untaped the door. So now the door is probably going to flop out of there on the driver's side, but that's all right. We just don't want it to hit anything made of metal or anything that can damage the paint on it before it comes to rest. And so here we are. I told you that door card was going to come out. So we'll just let it sit there for a minute with that little bit of tape on it. Now this white trim tape, and this is what I'm using. So this is Tamiya's. It's a bendable tape. I call it. It can do curves, compound curves even. It's really good. You just have to relax it as you're applying it. You don't pull it tight and then try to force it into a zone, into a curve. You have to be relaxed on it and just kind of coax it around these bends, and then it'll lay flat, and you just kind of come along behind as you're tacking it, with something that you can work it down with that won't get onto the paint. And it's a process, and you just kind of have to learn how to finesse it, but it's really good at doing the thing, at getting. You can see how it's coming off around that windshield there. So there's just one little spot right there that you can see that I'll have to touch up. That got silver onto the green where I didn't want it. And I just want to be careful I don't rub the plastic wrap against the painted car, because it's got that silver paint residue on the face of it. So we just want to make sure as we pull it away, we keep the outside out, as it were. All right, so this door card is still taped in. This one was taped in. That's so I can get the green even across the door panels and onto the and the car body all together. There's a little bit of a fingerprint right here in the corner of the hood. There it goes. Oh, it's gone. All right, so don't be afraid to use Kleenex or things of that nature on your finished paint. You don't always have to go to ultrafine sandpaper. Kleenex will do the trick. So you can see that the both of the hoods close properly, tightly, I think, well enough. I did paint the inside of the windscreen, as you can see here. All right. So just careful masking. I just wanted to cover the cockpit tub, right? Protect the fore and aft sections of the body, and then delineate, you know, the curvature around the face of the windscreen. And as it turns out, you know, pretty good. I need to put a touch of silver just here on the end of the windshield wiper at its hub, and then I need to just take a spot of this hunter green and block out that little bit of silver that got over there, that wayward paint chip. So anyway, there's our body done. I'm gonna put it back on the stand here, and we'll just set that up here for a minute. Alright, so yeah, the hood's a little tricky to get it to close and sit, but it'll do it. Alright, now you know how I like my two-tone paint jobs, especially on these early mid-century cars. So I did the pop top in racing white. What I need to do now is paint the silver trim on it. You get the gloss aluminum onto the trim surrounding the pop top hood. Let me get this off of here before it does things we don't want it to do. Alright, now since we've been gone, I did paint, I sprayed the cockpit with semi-gloss. Just took the shine down just enough, I think, on the dash and seats, and then it also works as a what do they call it, you know, spraying over the flocking just kind of works to help set that and keep it from you know, moving around. I then touched it up. You might remember there were a few bald spots down here underneath the passenger side in the footwell, and I just fixed that up a little bit. Okay, we also did semi-gloss onto the door cards, and that just pull the shine off just a bit. So these again are the tapes I'm using. So we have the compound curve Tamiya tape, and it comes in a couple of widths. Actually, it comes in quite a few. I just use these two typically. Okay, highly recommend also for Tamiya masking tape. These are very fine and very low tack, but they seal the edges really well. Highly recommend. Comes in a whole lot of different widths. I usually have well, I have usually 2 or 3 widths of this in, you know, here at the shop. This is what it looks like. This is the 18 mil is roughly 3/4 inch. 19 millimeters actually 3/4 of an inch, give or take. So there's a 3/4, there's a 3 mil, a 5 mil. I might have an 8, or I think it's 8 or 9 millimeter. You know, and I keep those typically on the shelf here. Just, it's good to have a lot of options when it comes to masking tape. As far as the widths of the tape go, I don't mess around too much with anything else. The blue tape that you see, I might use this to tape parts down onto the turntable for spraying. You know, so you do the thing where you want something to adhere to the base, and right now the base is outside with the hood on it. But you have your spinny base, your paint, you know, support, and you just lay this on like so with the blue tape, and then any part you put on there to paint is going to stay home. It's not going to be blasted off into the, you know, into the trash compactor when you start spraying. So that's what I use the blue tape for. So when you see the blue tape, you know I'm not using this to mask onto the paint, onto the body of a painted car. No, that's not what this is good for. But for taping small parts down to the deck while you work on them, sometimes if you're cutting a small part, you don't want it, you know, to flip and flop around. Use this, tape the part down to the deck. It'll help you hold it in place for those, you know, close cuts that you might need to make. It's just another modeling tip, I guess you'd call it. Take it or leave it. And then, you know, so getting these things right to the extent that you can, and leaving whatever issues there may or may not be you know, to the model manufacturer. Okay, there's certain things there that I can fix, I can adjust, I can do, and there's other things that I can't necessarily do without major surgery on a part or all of that, or recreating a part. And 3D printing now is really a big kind of a big boon to scale model makers, in that you can do literally anything with those, recreating parts, making them properly. You know, whole engines, you know, can be made, you know, just in a matter of finding the right you know, information input for your printer, and then just away you go. You know, so there's been a lot of big changes just with the advent of that technology, right? And accessibility of that. You can buy those little ones now. They're, you know, under $200-300. Software you can go to your library and get. You know, if you didn't know that, you can. And then there's a ton of websites that'll, you know, send you stuff. Anyway, it's a ruckus outside. The grill, as I mentioned, I was going to tape off the surround of the grill and then spray it black, just a light coat, and then come back in and sand just the tops of these of the grill bars. And I didn't want to sand them back too far. I think that looks pretty good, so we'll just go with this. And as I may have mentioned previously or not, on this part there are two areas that you have to watch out for. There's a little high rise in the plastic that comes up flush with the fascia of this part here, and there's one here, and there's one about here. I'm sorry, yeah, right about here. So you have to cut those off. If you leave them in, that grill will not seat properly at the top edge. It'll be down and it won't look right. And that was happening. I kept, well, what is this not? It's not fitting. And I kept assuming that those two nubs were fitting into grooves in the maw, in the opening. But they aren't. They're just, you know, they just don't need to be there. So you want to slice those off. And the first thing you want to do is come behind the thing, and you want to start from outside of the part, not like from in here. Come out here, and you want to locate the blade right up against that rail and drive down, and then come from the back edge and slide forward. And that's how you cut those off. If you start in here, you're going to end up with that blade chopping onto your fascia, and you don't want that. Okay, so in both cases you want to start from outside, lay the tip against the fascia wall, drop it down like a guillotine, and then come from the back and slide forward until you get that part all the way off. And then just sand the residual. And you can sand back here pretty easily, right? You need to do it anyway to get the chrome off so it'll stick to the car and all that stuff, right? Another quickie. All right, what else? I think that's about it. I've run the headlight cans. Let's see if I can flip this whole thing upside down. So there are the two cans at the headlights and the two cans at the taillights. Getting those positioned is a little tricky because at the back I've got to be able to slide my cardstock trunk lining in and around that. At the front I was concerned about the backs of those canisters hitting the top of the wheels, but they're just far enough forward that they don't make contact with the wheels. None of that would have been good, but that's why you mock things up and test fit and do all that stuff, so you don't end up with a real problem when you've got a painted body and you're trying to finagle things and finesse things and make things look good, and suddenly you're having to scuff and scratch and slice and dice, and you know. Anyway, other tips and tricks, just always mock everything up, always test fit everything. You know, I don't play around with that at all. I mean, that's just, you just have to do it. And it's painstaking sometimes, and it's the boring side of the thing. Everybody likes the finishing work, getting the thing to come together. But if you you know, if you don't take care and do the time right, you're going to have to do the time wrong on the back end against a finished body, or something cutting into something you didn't expect to have to cut into, and they can get out of hand pretty quick. So more tips and tricks. What else can I tell you? Let's take a look at the top. Hang on, I just have to take a shorty walk. It's a very small space, so you can't get too far away from you. So here's the hood, our pop top. And you can see it looks very nice in racing white, and it's a good contrast. You can see that it's a cream white. It's not a paper white or an appliance white. Those are too white. They're too white for me. You know what I'm saying? We got to mix things up. I personally don't mind it. So what you want to do is pick a couple of colors you like and go with them. Whatever colors you want to do, you do. Now, green wasn't going to be my first choice for this automobile. This is my grandson talking. He loves green. He wanted a green car, so that's what we did. And I like this hunter green on here. I think it looks pretty good, and I think it'll look great when we get the white contrasted with it, the pop top on there, and we can see how that looks. So I'm not going to pull the tape off though, because as you can see, these are the surrounds I'm talking about. This needs to be a trim. This is chrome all the way around the body, up here, and even around over the top. So the entire hood is surrounded with this thin chrome trim. In our case, it's going to be glossy aluminum trim. And then I also have to do the same around the passenger window. So we're going to do this in 2 steps. So the first thing I'll do is mask and paint the rear window surround. Okay? Get that masked and painted. And then we'll just lay a tape over that, because the whole top has to be masked to do that. And with that way, we only have to mask the top once. So we're going to mask the entire top, except for this. Okay? We're going to mask the entire top. And we're going to spray this. We'll lay a strip of tape over that. Then we're going to come back and mask around all of this molding, keeping the window covered, masking the entire top.